The other day, we learned that the United States is going to invest $80 billion in new AP1000 reactors. And today, there's even more news that I want to share with you, and I've updated the map a little bit so that we can learn how this really, looks like in real time. So first, this news over here, the U.S. Secretary says that the biggest use of the loan office will be for nuclear power plants. And it's basically, they basically make this choice because they know that natural gas needs no support. And currently, I believe that if you look at what is being built the most in the United States at this moment is natural gas plants. They're sprouting out of the ground like mushrooms everywhere at this moment. However, nuclear still exists in this limbo area, right? We have these large scale nuclear reactors that cost at least 10 to 15 billion a pop, and the small modular reactors still haven't been established as a viable option in the energy sector. So that's basically why the current administration, the person you are seeing over here is Chris Wright as Energy Secretary, why they are choosing to basically support nuclear energy. And this is funny because it shows you that it doesn't really matter who is the cheapest to get built. What will get built is where there is a political appetite for. So, for instance, if you look at California, for instance, where Gavin Newsom is the governor, what you see happening there is they keep going ham with these wind and solar projects, even though it creates a wildly unsustainable energy landscape. But this is something that, at this moment, the whole energy debate is basically stuck between green left dogmas and Republican dogmas. And to some degree, because I don't consider me to be a Democrat or a Republican, by the way, just to make that clear, is that there is stuff happening right now in the Trump administration, with regards to energy that I agree with. Just flat out agree with. Yes, this support for nuclear energy, this making sure that new nuclear developments get the financial support that they need is absolutely correct. It's the correct thing to do. But I do understand that people who believe dogmatically that renewables are going to save the world, that they say, well, nuclear is too expensive. Why should you subsidize it? I mean, it's just it's an irrational debate that is going on currently. So being nonpartisan, I look at the energy debate in the United States and in many other countries around the world with, I just don't understand it. Basically, it's dogmas here, it's dogmas there, but this is certainly one of the best things that they can possibly do. A lot of energy companies feel more comfortable currently stating that they want to build new nuclear power plants. And the reason for that is because there's a huge demand for power, and the demand for power keeps rising. And this is mainly fueled by the data center and AI boom that is currently going on in the United States. I will show you on the map in a minute. But what is interesting here is that, Calvert Cliffs is the only nuclear power plant in Maryland. It's almost 2 gigawatts. I believe it's 1.8 gigawatts or something like somewhere around that figure. And what Constellation Energy is saying, that they want to basically double the capacity of this nuclear power plant by adding another 2 gigawatts to the plant. Now, they don't say what they do want to build, so it's everybody's guess at this moment. If you want to build 2 gigawatts, you can do it with two AP1000s, which is basically the only choice that you have in the United States if you want to build gigawatt plus scale nuclear power plants. Or you could do it potentially with terrestrial IMSRs, which, they come in two packs, basically meaning that you get 390 megawatts electric per plant. But you could also do it with, I don't know, new scale seems to be an option. There's a news item that I'm going to show you in a minute, where you can see that the Tennessee Valley Authority is actually mulling over building new scale reactors. I don't know where that comes from. But there's also the X300. Rolls-Royce still has an SMR on offer, which is 470 megawatts at this moment. But in any case, what they also say, and this is very important, is that it's not just nuclear that they want to do. They also want to build 800 megawatts of battery storage and another 700 megawatts of gas-fired generation. So let's take a brief view on the map right over here. So Calvert Cliffs, right? So if you have the Chesapeake over here, the Chesapeake Bay, then over here, over here you have Washington. So this is Maryland over here. And then all the way down here is Calvert Cliffs. So here you have the two pressurized water reactors, the generator building. This is the substation, right? So the transformers are over here. So this is where the voltage regulation happens. Then over here, it's basically like a switch yard, a place where they basically can literally open the switch and close the switch in order for electricity to pass through. And then from here, the electricity gets distributed. Now, what I wanted to learn was whether electricity from this station would end up at data centers, right? Not because Constellation is saying that they want to do this particularly because of the data centers, because there's no data centers right next to this nuclear power station. But at this moment, that is what is basically pushing the demand forward. So let's see where we get, right? So first, I tried to follow the western line over here, transmission line, and that ended up going to Baltimore. Over here, right? I mean, here's Washington. This is Baltimore. Over here is Baltimore. So that was basically a dead end. And then I followed the middle line that came out of here. Or no, it's the most southern line, actually. That one goes first to a switch yard. Let's see. It crosses the Upper Patuxent Sanctuary. Then over here, there's an old coal-fired power plant. There's also some gas-fired power plants over here. You end up in a switch yard, and then you keep following the next route. It turns out it goes literally through the switch yard of yet another little gas plant. It's interesting, by the way. This is a combined cycle gas plant. So there's one dynamo, two dynamos, and there's a third dynamo over here. So here's a steam generator. Or basically a generator that runs on steam. That's what I should say. And then over here is your air cooling system that cools the system down, which you need if you're using a steam cycle. You need to condense your steam again in order for it to be able to boil and turn into not hydrogen gas, water vapor again near these turbines over here. But then if we follow this line, and I'm going to zoom out, I'm not going to follow it all the way up to there. There's a substation over here, there's another substation over here, and then there's a substation over here. And what you see, if you branch out from these two substations over here, is that you pretty much perfectly can follow, these lines and end up at substations right next to data centers. There's another gas plant over here, the Potomac Energy Center. If you go upwards, these lines go straight through these neighborhoods over here, and then you end up, distributing the electricity through these substations into these data centers. It's pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting, exercise to try to figure out how all these data centers are powered. Now, in some cases, these data centers don't have their own switch yards. So what happens is, right, so the electricity comes in here, and then it moves through the switch yard over here, and then there's a transformer over here. So that basically transforms the power down, and then you get these contraptions over here. That's basically where cables go into the ground. So that's where you get underground electricity distribution. And from there, these cables basically branch out towards this and over here. There's a lot of underground cables feeding these relatively, well, this is not a large data center, but these two are. This over here is relatively large, and as you can see, there's no switch yard near. So these are probably all being fed through underground cables. So back to Calvert Cliffs. Now they want to build another 2 gigawatts over here. So, I mean, you have choice. There's plenty of space, some wooded areas over here. You could either, reserve a new space for 2 gigawatts of AP1000s over here, or reserve 2 gigawatts for AP1000s over here, or whatever combination of small modular reactors and large reactors, or whatever you want to do. I mean, there's plenty of space. The only thing that they need to take care of is they probably would need some additional transmission capability, some extra bandwidth, basically. So they need to add more cables, which means that these vias over here, these power conduits through these woods would need a little more space, maybe at least a third extra. So you need to cut some woods in order to make sure that you can get all the transmission infrastructure, that needs to traverse these areas and end up at the spaces where they are needed. Now, more news over here. This one was pretty interesting. So, Tennessee Valley Authority pursues historic gas build-out and advanced nuclear. So, they say that they want to build. Let's see. So it's 2.8 gigawatts of natural gas. I've put them on the map as well. So let's go to Tennessee over here. So first, you have the TVA Cumberland fossil fuel plant, right? So this is a pretty big coal-fired power plant. There's the coal boiler over here, the coal boiler over here, and all this stuff over here. That's filtration systems to basically clean up the dirty stuff that comes out of the coal plant, and it needs to get spewed into the air. And the interesting bit is that in this picture you can see the full smokestack, but over here part of the smokestack is falling away, which makes me think, which makes me wonder whether this plant is still operational or not, or whether they are, taking some stuff down, or perhaps maybe this was photographed wrongly. But in any case, you can see there's a lot of groundwork being done over here. So perhaps this is the place that they are preparing for the 1.4 gigawatts of gas plants that they want to build. And then there's another site. Let me go. We need to go east, not go west, as the song does. And that's over here. So it's the Kingston fossil plant. Again, pretty big coal-fired power plant over here. A lot of different coal boilers, by the way. Normally you would see 1 or 2 or maybe 3 big coal boilers, but over here there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 coal boilers in total. And then over here the generator building, and they are probably preparing this area over here to become the place where the new gas-fired power plants are going to be built. But the other interesting bit is over here. This is called the Clinch River site. I believe that there used to be a small breeder reactor over here a long time ago. And the interesting bit is that it does have transmission lines running through it. So patching it into the high voltage distribution net or transmission net, it shouldn't be too hard. There's ample water supply. And I believe that they want to build 4 X300 SMRs over here. All right, let's see what they say. Where is it? The utility is planning to build up to 4 small modular reactors at its Clinch River nuclear site after TVA's board of directors authorized up to $350 million in expenses. And in February entered into an agreement with Type 1 Energy to develop a plan for a TVA fusion power plant. So that's in the same sentence, weirdly enough. So they're also trying to do some fusion. So what you can see is they're really branching out. They're not just saying we're going to build gas plants. They say, no, we want to build gas plants, we want to build nuclear plants, and we even want to build a nuclear fusion plant. I mean, it's pretty interesting. Then over here, this here is some information about the Clinch River nuclear site. The link will be in the description down below. And then here, I mean, this is from September 2nd, 2025. The Tennessee Valley Authority signs agreement for 6 gigawatts of small nuclear. And this should be, well, right, I mean, this is for Entra One Energy. Let's see, announced. Yeah. The weird thing is they're talking about, so they want to build 6 energy plants, so 6 1 gigawatt plants across the TVA's 7-state territory. The nuclear company would then sell their output to the federal utility, potentially enough power. There it is. The project will utilize small modular reactors developed by NuScale Power. NuScale Power. I mean, if NuScale can make their micro mini small modular reactors that are like 77 megawatts each, if they can make that work, then more power to them. Start building. But I have doubts whether NuScale is going to be successful or not, because it seems like their power plant makes everything more there's too many components. It's too complex. That's my idea. I remember they had a website in the UK once, NuScale, and they had this picture of this NuScale power plant. Unfortunately, you can't find it anymore. And it basically said, like, there's 450,000 components in a NuScale power plant. And I was like, how is that positive? How can you make this like a selling? How is this a sales pitch for one of your NuScale power plants? You should make it simpler and simpler and simpler instead of making it more complex. The trouble with having a 77 megawatt power module is that it needs to be hooked up to a power conversion system. So if you have these 77 megawatt reactors and you put 12 of them in a power plant, does that mean that you also have 12 generators, for instance, right? Those are things that I really want to know. And if that's the case, then I wonder, how does that work with economies of scale, economies of numbers? So the issue is, with all these added components, can you come to a price point for electricity that still makes sense, right? So I believe that small modular reactors can have a place in the energy world. I do believe that, having shortened construction periods, having less risk in terms of capital risk, that those are good things. And if you can build a small modular reactor in, let's say, 2 or 3 years, that would obviously be a great selling point for these reactors. That would make the slightly higher price that you need to pay for electricity compared to a 1 gigawatt reactor or an 1100 or a 1600 megawatt reactor, that would make it worth the price. And that's what I wanted to show you today. All the links to these news articles will be in the description down below. The link to the map is also in the description down below. Now, if you want to help me get some presents for my children, there's PayPal and there's Patreon, and any help would be appreciated, because this is the only thing that I do, and I'm putting a lot of time into these maps and these videos, and hopefully it matters to you and it helps you understand the world of energy a little bit better. In any case, please make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. If you haven't already, leave a like and a comment. May the strong force be with you. Thank you all for watching. Bye bye.